Today, we're going to jump into some strategies that help some cannabis companies thrive in 2020, as well as a list of cannabis industry's biggest wins of last year. Welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, Capital Markets Analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. To kind of help us dive into some of these reports is Katrina Glogowski, angel investor and attorney. Katrina, thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thanks, Josh.
So MJ Business Daily, they got strategies that help marijuana companies thrive in 2020, talking about it being brutal. There was a pandemic, an economic recession, hyper-partisan presidential election. And so kind of looking at over the last year, executives saw supply chains from China snap overnight. So some of the strategies, so key measures and yardsticks. So included top sales positions in various states, according to data from Seattle-based firm Hedge and LeafLink. Some other keys to success included smart inventory management, aggressive discounting, crafty marketing, product variety, data gathering, and analysis, as well as increased self-reliance. So maybe let's break that down real quick and talk about smart inventory management. I wanted to find out some products that had CBN in it. And so walking into a store and you just ask a bud tender and they're looking around, they're like, oh, let me go ask the manager. They have no idea. But if you had a program like Headset, you would know. So I think that's probably key of knowing what kind of inventory you have.
Also, not letting stuff sit on the shelf forever and
Right.
being able to track what's selling and what's not.
Right. Aggressive discounting is another one. There's loyalty programs out there, whether or not they work. Have to look at the numbers, but that helps, especially discounting via the text or other methods to kind of get people to kind of look at social media or texting or whatever else and get them back in the stores.
Yeah, got to move the product.
That kind of includes crafty marketing and using, text is super old, but with cannabis and you can't really advertise and market it makes it hard. So got to go back to the old school ways of doing some things. Product variety, seeing some of the companies that were having maybe top shelf premium products working their way down to the cheap weed category as kind of bulk has taken over. People spending more money on toilet paper hoarding and have less money for cannabis. It's going to be a lot of product variety.
Agreed. And you need to know which of your products actually sell.
Yeah, not so much chocolate covered espresso beans or even coffee. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of healthy options out there, but looking at the data on what sells is not going to tell you what could sell if you introduced it. But if you're just entering the market, got to go with solid data, and that's data gathering and analysis, as well as increased self-reliance. So that's compliance. That's kind of just knowing what you're doing and getting some tools in there to kind of help you out.
Well, I think what the data is going to show is that vertically integrated companies did a little bit better than little one-offs that struggle, number one, to compete. But if you can't control the supply when there's a spike in demand because of panic buying, well, then you're going to be at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Benzinga, they got an article about the cannabis industry's biggest wins of 2020. So the cannabis industry, they adapted to the pandemic. And so I guess we could kind of narrow that up to maybe fast tracking delivery. They had roadside pickup, which was really interesting. They were deemed an essential business. I mean, a lot happened last year.
Yeah. I think the biggest win there is being deemed an essential business. These are state governments that hated cannabis yesterday, saying, now you're an essential business and you must stay open. That's a big shift.
Yeah, and for a state like, Washington that doesn't have delivery, that's obviously going to make it important enough to maybe hear a bill on delivery. I know that growing at home grow bill is gaining some traction. Maybe that'll happen at the same time. Who knows? But there's some other bills. Obviously, marijuana lounges are not anything anybody wants to hear right now. So there's been some give and take on that side. We did see a lot of cannabis sales skyrocket, some people shifting to edibles and away from topicals or tinctures, a lot of bulk buying, not a whole lot of individual, grams, but more about ounces. So definitely a shift in consumer preferences as kind of sales were skyrocketing.
Yeah, and this totally makes sense. You're stuck at home, and maybe your home situation isn't ideal for a variety of reasons. What are you going to do?
Right. And that's same state sales year over year, not even including like Illinois, which has the highest basket size anywhere in the country at over $100 on average per customer transaction. That'll dip down. California is at around 60, 65 because that's their minimum order amount. Washington and Oregon are like $30. So we go and we buy when we want to buy it. And that's really kind of the difference. So looking at somebody like Illinois or even New Mexico or Michigan, Maine, they're going to be really, really high because people are going out wanting to try new things and hoarding and hoping that, like with Maine, for example, that they don't get shut down again.
Right.
Number three, the UN reclassified cannabis. I think, yeah. So the world recommendation from the World Health Organization in 2019 about global scheduling in cannabis needed to be changed. So the declassification by the UN following that.
This is probably the biggest uh, development in the cannabis industry in 2020, because once it's descheduled internationally, it opens up international import and export. And that is where the future of cannabis is.
Right. And one of the crystal ball predictions is international export is going to be a thing. And so as soon as Canada can kind of figure that out and allow Colombia cannabis to enter the country, and maybe that was Aurora and Canopy Growth saying, no, we don't want that cheap, good cannabis because we have to shut down our $250 million production because we don't know how to do it as well or cheap as what Colombia can do. I think a lot of this, the UN and the World Health Organization and all these global push and initiatives to reclassify and normalize cannabis is really going to put a lot of pressure on countries like the US to legalize as soon as Mexico comes on board. So this is good news.
Agreed.
And with that domino effect, we're seeing 5 U.S. states legalize after the November election, including Montana, New Jersey, South Dakota, Arizona, and then Mississippi also voted for medical cannabis.
Yep.
All good stuff. So that's going to create FOMO in New York. Virginia already said they need money. New York didn't even talk about kids. They were like, we're broke. This looks good. This is where we want to go. I mean, they're not even downplaying the fact that this is about revenue.
Right.
And that is it. So I'm surprised they didn't mention the House, the MORE Act that went through the House and was passed and is now going to move to the Senate. Everyone thought that it would just die in the Senate because it's been Republican controlled, but it looks like the House and the Senate and obviously presidential election of Joe Biden, it means that everything is Democratic. So a lot of cannabis stocks have been increasing after the election, and then after the Georgia Senate runoff, and everything kind of since then has been going gangbusters. So again, we're projecting that is with the C3 fund. We're projecting a triple-digit increase in the cannabis stock sector this year. So should be interesting to watch.
We'll see if that holds, Josh. I certainly hope so.
So do I. You're just going to have to come back to the Talking Hedge and find out. So with that, I want to roll this one up and thank my guest, Katrina Glogowski, angel investor and attorney. Thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thanks.
With that, we're going to roll this one up. I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.